So there's a pretty contentious campaign going on in Massachusetts. Actually, there's a couple, but one of them has gained national attention after some allegations of inappropriate behavior had surfaced. Now, this is according to The Intercept. The 31-year-old candidate, Alex Morse, who's a progressive, it's been alleged that he has made students feel uncomfortable by sending them messages through Instagram and as well as messages on Tinder, in addition to having sexual contact with some students at UMass Amherst, where he was previously a professor. Now, the allegation does not say that Morse had inappropriate relationships with students that he had taught, which of course would be a red flag, would be a problem, right? But rather had accused him of having relationships with other students, and then what? Sending them messages. Now, here's the thing, right? UMass, like most universities, bars relationships between students and faculty who have a supervisory or teaching relationship with the students. Morse was not alleged to have had any of those. And so other students, again, he's a pretty young guy. He's only 31 years old. You know, like not every student that goes into college is like 18, 19, right? There are people in their mid 20s. There are people in their 30s that go to these colleges. And so, look, I don't see anything wrong with that, right? I don't see anything wrong as long as you don't have that power dynamic over your student, right? That you're not, having sex with your student and then being able to give them good grades because of it. Okay. And again, that would be the problem. And so what he does is that he goes on Tinder and goes on Instagram, whatever, and yeah, matches up with some people who happen to also go to school. Okay. So what's the issue? I mean, so far there have been no complaints against Alex Morse, no official complaints with the college. And so if there aren't any complaints and if they're not breaking any rules, then what's the issue? Why are we hearing about this? Why do we care? Why do we care? Well, turns out that this is political, right? So look, Morse has said, look, I reject any allegations of impropriety. And I think that this is a political hit job against me. So people are looking into the origin of a letter sent by UMass College Democrats. So now it turns out that we find out that the leader of the UMass College Democrats, or at least for some time until about April of 2020, was a fan of Morse's primary opponent, Richard Neal. Richard Neal is a very powerful Democrat. He serves on the Ways and Means Committee, and Alex Morse is challenging him for his seat. And so, again, people are looking into the letter sent by this person who apparently wants to use the situation. Well, I'm sorry, not the situation, but wants to get into politics by siding with Richard Neal, who seems to always have a little bit of a, I wouldn't say like relationship because that sounds like it's wrong, but like he's always had a respect for Richard Neal and wanted to use his campaign to further get himself into politics, and so he had been open to open with his hopes for working for Neal in the future, right? So now, in order to back that up, I go to Claire Sheedy, right? So now Claire Sheedy is a student. She was active in the College Democrats chapter and knew this man. This man, of course, is, let's see, Timothy Ennis, right? Timothy Ennis, of course, went to a journalism class with Richard Neal. And so apparently he really liked Richard Neal and wanted to serve in his campaign. And so also he seemed to have a problem with Alex Morse and had talked to Sheedy and basically admitted while they were both working for the Buttigieg campaign that, quote, he spoke very highly of Mr. Neal. What he said to me is he wanted Neal to be his into politics and work his way up from there. But when it came to, of course, Morse, Ennis said that Morse socialized with students in a way that he was uncomfortable with, and that Morse had recently matched with a student on Tinder, and again felt very uncomfortable with that. Right? Sheedy was like, okay, that's whatever. Who cares, right? That doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that, matching up with students, as long as it's not your student, right? As long as you don't have that power dynamic, as I explained, right? And so, okay, she didn't think about that until Ennis wrote a letter, right, on behalf of the rest of the college Democrats, um, to the local college paper, which published an article based on this against Alex Morse. So that seems like a little bit of a problem, right? Because Ennis did not go and ask everybody, hey, should we write this letter on your behalf? What do you think? Now, Sheedy was a Morse supporter, is a Morse supporter. And so she's like, wait a minute. I don't agree with this letter. I don't think it's bad. I don't think what Morse did is inappropriate. Why would you basically write this on my behalf? I don't like this at all. Now, there's another person, Helena Middleton, who's also a sophomore and former member of the University of Massachusetts College Democrats, and said, look, I joined this group to meet people, meet fellow Democrats, of course, and I'm a supporter of Morse. And I would like to, support Alex Morse. I would like to recruit people to support Alex Morse. Whereas the campaign apparently would welcome that, right? But Ennis, who wanted to be part of Neil's campaign and ran the college Democrats, said, no, we're not going to help you, right? We're not going to, we're going to ignore basically calls to help Alex Morse, while of course sending out opportunities for Ed Markey. I like Ed Markey, but they're also sent out stuff for Joe Kennedy, right? So if you're sending out for both, that's fine. But it seems like as leader of the college Democrats, you should also send out ways to help Alex Morse if people are interested in that. And you're not doing that. You're not doing that at all. So she eventually, Middleton said that she eventually learned that a member of the group's leadership was a student in Neil's journalism course at the time, and said he made it very clear that he supported the election campaign and that he wanted to work for Neil. Middleton then left later on, several days ahead of the letter's publication, frustrated at the anti-Morse bias from leadership. Sheedy also left the chapter after the letter was published. Current president Andrew Abramson reached out to Middleton last week to apologize for joking about the Morse race in the college Democrats group chat. Ennis, by the way, ended up becoming Neil's chief strategist in April of 2020. And so there's also allegations from Morse that the college Democrats were favoring Neil's campaign because of donations. They requested a donation from Morse's campaign, being a small campaign that's not funded by, PACs or corporations, just relying on small donors. You're not going to have a lot of money. So Morse declined. Said, well, we can't. We just don't have the money to do so. However, other politicians did donate. And the president of the state chapter of the college Democrats later took to Twitter to applaud Neil for donating $1,000 to the Amherst chapter back in May. And Neil also posted a photo of his class, which Ennis, who has since locked his Twitter account, had liked. And so there is, a lot of, look, it seems like a conflict of interest, really, right? We're like, hey, I'm going to help out the candidate that I like, that I'm going to get a job in, and then I'm going to go after the person that I don't like, that it happens to be primarying the person that I want to work for. That seems a little strange to me, right? But now there's more, right? That's just stuff that we've already known for at least a couple of days. New story that's dropped on this. It appears that the college Democrats had also worked with the campaign to go after Alex Morse. So now they write, behind the scenes, the state party, despite, of course, trying to remain neutral or having their stated goal of remaining neutral in contested primaries, had been coordinating with the college Democrats of Massachusetts to launch the very allegations against Morse's campaign. So the state party is teaming up with the college Democrats to go after Alex Morse to protect Richard Neal. Now, this is according to 5 sources within the state party and connected to the CDMA. A review of messages between party leadership and CDMA leadership and call records obtained by The Intercept. The document showed that Massachusetts Democratic Party Executive Director Veronica Martinez and Chair Gus Bickford connected the students with attorneys. Among them was the powerful state party figure and attorney Jim Roosevelt, who worked with the college group on a letter alleging Morse behaved inappropriately. So, now The Intercept reported on Wednesday that at least 2 members of the UMass Amherst chapter had been planning in some form or another to leverage Morse's use of dating apps in the Pioneer Valley against him and in favor of his opponent in the primary, longtime incumbent influential House and Ways and Means Chair, Representative Richard Neal. On Thursday morning, in the wake of the revelation, Politico reported that Bickford was calling for an investigation to examine the conduct of college Democrats who levied the allegations against Morse. Quote, "They turned to the state party to help them. They thought they'd protect them, but instead the state party is trying to destroy them," one member of the Democratic State Committee told The Intercept. Martinez then reached out to CDMA members repeatedly by phone and text, at least late July up to and including Thursday, according to records. In text messages reviewed by The Intercept, Martinez takes an active role in directing the group on the strategy behind the letter before and after its release, including coaching on how to interact with the press. On Thursday, the college Democrats also posted a statement that apologized to Morse, adding, "We wrote the letter to Alex Morse's campaign on the advice of legal counsel," but they did not specify who that counsel was. But of course, that counsel was Jim Roosevelt, who happens to be a power broker within the state and national Democratic Party and contributed to Neal's campaign back both in 2008 and 2016, giving $1,000 and $500 respectively, according to FEC records. He has a history, by the way, of going against progressives, going against the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, of which Alex Morse is a part of. He's a progressive, and he's trying to unseat Richard Neal. In 2016, he chaired the DNC's Credentials Committee, rejecting Sanders' formal request to remove Barney Frank as the chair of the Rules Committee. Barney Frank, of course, is an establishment Democrat, and after the Vermont senator deemed the former lawmaker too hostile to the progressive agenda. A year later, Roosevelt publicly rebuffed the suggestion by Elizabeth Warren that members of the DNC had tilted the presidential playing field towards Hillary Clinton's campaign. A former CEO for the health insurance giant Tufts Health Plan, Roosevelt will once again co-chair the Credentials Committee at the DNC next week. Asked if anybody from the state party leadership ever reached out to him about concerns being expressed by the college Democrats, Morse said, "Never." So understand that this is a hit job. This is an establishment hit job against a progressive. Alex Morse did not act inappropriately. There are no actual complaints that he had done anything against the rules or wrong. Just because you may have a quote unquote creepy feeling from Alex, and doesn't mean that you should be basically, that you should not be able to run your campaign. And it's very, very clear that the state party is against Alex Morse and had helped in this to try to do this. I don't know, this just gigantic hit job against a progressive in order to protect an incumbent. So that's what we have.